So it turns out I've completed a bunch of video games this year, and I thought, heck, let's talk about those games that I've completed already in 2024. And I was thinking about it. Last year, I would do a bunch of these videos about games I completed in 2023, and I haven't done one in 2024 just yet. And then I was reminded, watching Quality's YouTube channel, great cozy YouTube channel talking about video games, and that sparked a memory in me. Wait a second, why haven't I done this in 2024? That's crazy. I've been doing a lot of individual reviews and completed video games, but not one sort of compilation. So I thought, let's do that, let's talk about that. So hey everyone, I'm Clayton Morris. Welcome to my little YouTube channel here. I'm on a walk this morning. This is one of my normal walks here along the ocean here with my dog. And I thought this would be a perfect time to try out my new camera and to talk about video games a little bit. So let's wind the clock back, if we will, to the beginning of the year, right at the beginning of 2024. I set a pretty ambitious agenda that I was going to beat 50 video games in 2024. Yes, 50 video games in 52 weeks. And I was off to a good start. But then everything got derailed, and I'll tell you about the derailment in just a little bit here. I mean, I'm talking completed the games, yes, the story, credits rolling on a game. Not every little Korok seed, not every side quest, but most of them, and yes, credits rolling, completed the games, right? So let's start with the first one that I beat this year, a game I absolutely loved. I've never played an Ys game. Yes, the Ys series. So my friend John over at the Happy Console Gamer, you know, he's obsessed with the Ys series, of course, and he's been telling me, you've got to play the Ys series, you've got to play the Ys series. So I said, finally, I'm going to do it. So I started with Ys Origin, which obviously came out a few years ago, so it's a prequel to Ys Books 1 and 2, but I absolutely loved Ys Origin. Ys Origin, of course, takes place many, many years before Ys Books 1 and 2, so it takes you back to the beginning, gives you a really nice origin story, and as you later go through the Ys series, you realize they really nailed it. They really nailed it with the music, they really nailed it with the combat. They really nailed it with a lot of the items, of course, that show themselves later in the Ys series, Ys Books 1 and 2 particularly. And you get a really nice context for how this world unfolds. I really loved this game. You can play through the story with 3 different characters, which really gives you the true ending of the game, which is a really interesting concept. Of course, you're going up a tower the whole time. You're going up all the way to the top, to the final boss, which was really cool. And I thought, oh, this is going to be boring. I'm going to be in one place the whole time. But I have to say, after coming off of Tears of the Kingdom and some of the other big RPGs that I had played, it was really nice to have this sort of confined space that I didn't have to worry about this massive open world. In fact, if you even try to leave the tower at one point, you're told, sorry, we need you here. You have to stay in this tower, and you have to go all the way up to complete this quest. And I really enjoyed it. And you know what was interesting too is that the tower really was different, so many levels. You have an underwater level inside the tower, like what? You have some like lush sort of forest environments. You've got a lot of mechanized environments. It was really, really great. Again, the music was great. The mysteries of solving to unlock different chests, the puzzle solving was really interesting. And if you've played Ys Books 1 and 2, you realize things are not they're not openly obvious. Oh, I have to smash this particular statue head in order to unlock this door, in order to get to this spot. And I was frustrated for quite a while trying to figure out some of these hidden challenges on some of these levels. Wait, I have to play, you know, you have to play a flute or whatever to like unlock this thing because this statue doesn't like flute music, or, you know, that kind of stuff, right? And it's not immediately obvious. And just think back, I think it's a callback to those early games, like, you know, early NES games where you didn't have player's guides, you didn't have the internet to jump on and try to problem solve. You just had to work through it and think about it. And so that really, I think a lot of that comes out in Ys Origin, but a great origin story. So that was the first game that I beat in 2024 that I completed. Highly recommend. And that's even really a great starting place, I think, before you jump into the other part of the Ys series. So I'm looking forward to going through all of the Ys series. Waiting right now as I'm in the middle of a move to try to get my hands on Ys 3 and then go through that. But yeah, so Ys Origin, a great place to start. This little spot down here is where a lot of the spear fishermen will go in their wetsuits, spear fishing, catching octopus and other fish. Today's a little too violent for them to be out here, but down by the rocks. But a lot of the fishermen are here today. And always see the old fishermen out here catching their fish. It's a great place to come fish, by the way. Bom dia. Bom dia. The next game I completed this year, God of War 2018, which of course is the sequel to God of War 3, games I never played back in the day. So this game, of course, takes place many years after God of War 3. It's an older Kratos. He's seasoned, he's weathered, he's beaten down, and his son, Atreus. And I never played a game like this before, and I was absolutely blown away. So this is the second game I completed this year, and of course follows Norse mythology, which I absolutely love. So I was immediately drawn into this unbelievable world. Right at the very beginning of the game, realizing that their mother has passed away. You learn that immediately, of course, and getting sucked into this father and son story, I mean, absolutely reminds me of me and my son. I mean, how could it not, right? If you're a parent, you know what that feels like. And teaching your son to become a man, teaching your son to provide and take care of himself, and to be a useful member of society, I suppose, right? All of those things that fathers want for their son, right? We want our sons to provide for their family. Biologically, yes, I know in 2024 you're not allowed to talk about biological differences, but I do on this channel. There are such things as men, and there are such things as women, and men, biologically, with the strength imbued to them, yes, you go out and hunt. You go out and provide for your family. That's what you do, men. Yes. And that is a strong story in this, to teaching a young boy to learn the ropes, and you go on this unbelievable quest as it relates to his mom. I don't want to give any spoilers away, but it's just a beautifully harsh environment with unbelievable vistas. Even though this game came out in 2018, I played it on the PlayStation 5, just looked absolutely gorgeous. And the story was short enough to not, think about, oh my God, it's going to take me all year to get through. It's a great story progression. You can do tons of really interesting side quests as well, which I did. But I loved the weapon upgrades. I loved the skill tree. I loved all of the different back and forth communication between Atreus and Kratos, his father, telling him what to do, what not to do. Having his son at certain points one-up him. I mean, that's happening right now with my 13-year-old son. There's certain things where he's like, Dad, what? Like he and I were playing Helldivers the other night together, and I hadn't played in a few weeks, so I'm pretty rusty. And we jumped in, he invited me to play. We jumped in, and I realized, holy smokes, I kind of forgot a lot of the mechanics, and my son was saying, Dad, what are you doing here? What's going on here? Don't you know how to get your stratagems? Don't you? It was funny, and it reminded me a little bit of God of War, where the son is sort of one-upping his father from time to time. And then he makes mistakes, and he realizes he's gone too far. And his father has to step in and say, that was a mistake, son. Did you learn from that? Did you grow from that? But I love the interplay between the two characters, and I loved him yelling, and I do this to my son too, boy, get over here, boy.
Look at me, boy, look at me.
So I do that to my son all the time in the house when we're trying to leave to go somewhere. I was like, boy, just like Kratos yelling to Atreus. I haven't played Ragnarok yet. That's on my backlog. I think I might get to that this year. I tend to do that when I start playing a game for the first time and I love it. It's like I want to go to the next game right away. So God of War, highly recommend. If you haven't checked out this series yet and you haven't checked out a great sort of starting place, I mean, I might go back and play the originals. Let me know in the comments, is it worth going back to God of War 1, 2, and 3? Again, I picked up the 2018 version, and that's where I started on this journey. So let me know in the comments below if you think it's worth going back that far, playing it on the PSP or anything like that. I'd love to know your thoughts on that. So that was the second game completed this year, and it felt amazing. This whole journey, and then have those credits roll on this game, really an enjoyable experience. Let me know your thoughts on God of War. So that was number 2 on my list. Just have to sit down for a minute, a little out of breath. I'm just getting over being sick, so still pretty weak right now, actually. So I'll talk about my third game. The third game that I completed this year was just absolutely blew me away, and that video game is Prince of Persia and the Lost Crown. This was my first entry into the Prince of Persia series. I'd never played, I shouldn't say that, I played maybe a little bit on the NES back in the day with some friends, but for the most part, really never played a Prince of Persia game from beginning to end, certainly, and this was an absolute treat. As you know, I'm a huge Metroidvania fan, and this might be the ultimate, I mean, we're talking Symphony of the Night level Metroidvania. This was an unbelievable video game. You enter and play as Sargon, who is, you know, he's a good sword wielder, but he becomes legendary as the game unfolds, and you learn to bend time and manipulate sort of the space-time continuum with your swords and different abilities that you unlock, and the map is absolutely bonkers in size. I'm talking, from what I understand, like Hollow Knight level size of a map, and that's okay. I thoroughly enjoyed playing through Prince of Persia. There's so many fantastic battles. The combat is so satisfying. The parrying is next level. When you're able to parry with just a beautiful, and games should pay attention to this. I mean, Stellar Blade gets it right. When you have that perfect timing of a parry and you get that sword clinking, and then you can respond with a combo. This is not some hack and slash game. This is not button mashing. There are so many complex combinations in this game that there's a lot of training areas where you can go and work on your combos, and I highly recommend you do that because you can actually unlock additional skills as you go through the training areas. But really focus on, all right, I've got to do up, down, you know, like Contra style, right? Up, down, left, right. Like there's some really intense combo strategies that you can employ, sliding underneath an enemy, striking, jumping up, knocking the guy high up in the air, so you're continuing to hit him up in the air over and over again until he falls back down. He can't regain his footing. Once you've staggered an enemy, so many great things. Using your bow and arrow to unlock different parts of the game and shooting bad guys. The boss levels in this, oh my gosh, the boss fights. I'm not going to ruin anything, no spoilers, but some of the toughest boss fights that I've ever experienced in a game. I'm talking like FromSoft level or Metroid Dread level boss fights in this, but incredibly satisfying. Beautiful level design, by the way. There's this unbelievable level where you're out in the ocean, basically, and it's sort of amidst a shipwreck, and it has like a dreamlike quality to it. Then you have lush forests, you have sewers, you have libraries. The library scene is crazy and beautiful. The music, again, next level. So just really great video game, and I completed this, and I was going to see it through. I mean, there were some parts where I really got stuck, but I just worked through it, and I can't wait to see what they're doing with the. I know now apparently they're working on a second one with this style of game, and this kind of came out of nowhere, to be honest with you, and it blew me away. I don't know what the sales have been like for this game, but I hope that Ubisoft, you know, really sees that we need to make more games like this. A refreshing take on a Metroidvania game, fantastic battle mechanics. Keep making games like this, guys. They don't need to be massive AAA games, but keep making games like this, and I think I will be really happy as a Metroidvania fan. Number 4 on my list, I completed Ys Books 1 and 2. Now, this is an amazing story because I started out playing this on the TurboGrafx Mini. And I did a whole video about how the TurboGrafx Mini blew up on me. So I was about 6 or 7 hours or so into the game, and then it just went kaput. There's a power problem with that whole system. It's been well documented. I did a whole video about it. So I was like, how am I going to play this game? It's very difficult to find the original version of this game, play it the way it was meant to be played, not playing like the 3DS versions, which are apparently pretty terrible. I wanted to play the original game. So now my TurboGrafx Mini was kaput. What was I gonna do? I just got the Analog Duo, which will allow you to play, of course, PC Engine games, TurboGrafx games, and then I ordered the CD. I ordered the TurboGrafx CD of Ys Books 1 and 2, so I had to wait a few weeks. In that time, I went back, I started playing Ys Origin, and I had to wait again to get my hands on Ys Books 1 and 2. And what an unbelievable game this is. First of all, the music is just the best. And I use the music now through so many of my games or videos because it's just next level. An unbelievable experience for me. I'd never played a role-playing game like this before with this sort of battle mechanics where you're bumping into enemies instead of turn-based combat. You know, I grew up playing Dragon Warrior, AKA Dragon Quest back in the day. And you know, that game, of course, turn-based. You're fighting slimes and you have to take your turns using a sword and you upgrade your swords. And this, you're doing the same thing, of course, upgrading your swords, upgrading your weapons and all of that, but you're just running into enemies. You're using this weird bump battle mechanic, which I'd never experienced before, and it was so much fun. And plus it speeds up the game, right? It makes it a little bit faster to be able to move more quickly, slash through enemies quickly, upgrade. So I spent quite a bit of time grinding areas just to get experience, just to level up, so that I could move on to different, more difficult areas, like when you're going into the mines or in the tombs and things like that. I'm not going to spoil any of the game here for you, but the story, the characters, I just grew to really love these characters. And even though it's so simplistic, we're talking 1980s level here, right? The cutscenes, the animations with the voice acting was fantastic.
I am pure evil.
I was just blown away by how similarly the cutscenes looked to the actual gameplay. You know, sometimes it would take you out of that experience where they looked like two different things you were watching, but similar colors, similar animation to go from the gameplay to these cutscenes. The voice acting, tons of fun to hear that CD quality. I can only imagine what that would have been like for me as a young player of Dragon Quest to hear voice acting in a game, like what? But the story comes together in a really rich sort of tapestry of all of these different characters, and it really makes you care for these characters. And I was blown away by it, quite honestly, and I really endeared to this series. I was wondering if I would care about the Ys series at all, if it would hook me, and it absolutely did. And to play Ys Origin kind of beforehand, I could see some of the throwbacks, the callbacks with different items that you're picking up and things that you need to progress in the game. It was great that Ys Origin pulled a lot of that stuff from 20, 30 years ago and put it into that game. So yeah, Ys Books 1 and 2, highly recommend. So now Ys Origin, Ys Books 1 and 2, which really counts as 2 games. Then I'm on to Ys 3 at some point, or maybe that'll be this year, I don't know. But I'm excited to continue on the Ys series. So highly recommend. Again, I have a full review of Ys Books 1 and 2. I'll have a link in the description if you want to check that out. Number 5 on my list, the game that totally derailed my plans to play 50 video games this year, and that is Xenoblade Chronicles, the Definitive Edition. Yes, I'd never played a Xenoblade game before, but I decided on a big trip that we had as a family, I was going to be on airplanes, I had some time off work. Now might be the perfect time to dive in and play this classic JRPG that I've heard so much about over the years, and I just couldn't wait. So yes, I bought all of them. I have Xenoblade 1, 2, Torna, and 3, and I even have the Wii U version of Xenoblade Chronicles X as well. So yes, I am now a massive fan of this series, but I didn't think it was going to be this big. I knew it was big, but I didn't know it was going to be this big. And yes, I definitely put in over 100 hours into this game, and that's the game, of course, it took me about a month to beat. So that threw off my 50 game plan for the year, but I have no regrets. I loved every moment of it. I loved the grinding, I loved the world building, the music is astronomically beautiful. in all of the right ways. Going through Machna Forest, the music there, going into the caves, the music there. Boss battle music is next level. Unbelievable. The artwork, the anime, the character designs, just really, really fantastic. And to me, it sets a standard now for what kind of, what JRPGs will mean to me, what JRPGs I will look forward to playing in the future. Can they have this level of lore and story design and craftsmanship? And probably not, but maybe they'll carve out their own path. Yes, I had some problem with some of the side quests, and they're kind of just way too many side quests, and they really, they're just kind of whatever, just kind of fetch quests, nothing really exciting, or kill a few monsters and whatever. But I had fun doing them. There was a day where I just spent a day kind of doing side quests and trying to complete as many of them as I could. As noted, many of you pointed out, if you're doing some of these side quests and they have a little timer icon next to them, those will run out. So you want to make sure if you unlock those, go and do them, because they will disappear and you will not be able to go back and complete those side quests. I fell in love with the combat in this game. Again, I'd never experienced combat like this in a JRPG before. Having to really think through strategically how I'm going to use all of my characters in my group, and rotating between the 3 characters that you can use in any given battle, developing their rapport, leveling them up so they're kind of equal, but they play well together. And that's exactly what I did. I used Sharla, Shulk, and Ryan for most of my battles, but kind of rotated out a number of other individuals. But thinking through how to stagger enemies, once they're staggered, then I could launch a takedown, a topple effect with some of my strategy. And I loved that. I really, really enjoyed that experience, thinking through the battle mechanics in a way that I had never experienced before. So I'm excited to jump into Xenoblade 2. Let me know in the comments below. So many people have different thoughts about this. They say, number 1 is their favorite all time, 2 is their favorite all time, Torna is their favorite all time, 3 is your favorite all time. Let me know or even, Xenoblade Chronicles X on the Wii U. Which, by the way, do you think we're going to see a Switch port of that on the Switch 2? I'm hoping. There's just a few Wii U games right now that are locked to the Wii U, and it'd be really interesting to see if we see Xenoblade come over from the Wii U. But yeah, this game totally derailed my year because it took a month. And now I'm even further derailed because I'm knee-deep, of course, in Unicorn Overlord right now, which is, of course, I'm already over 50 hours into that game and cannot stop playing it because it's so darn good. So anyways, guys, I'd love to hear what games you've completed this year. Let me know down below about some of the games you're looking forward to for the rest of the year. And thanks for joining me on my morning walk. We'll see you next time, everyone.